Yeah, well, I mean, I certainly am grateful that we passed the SAVE Act through the House. 5 Democrats joined us. It's jammed up in the Senate. The bill would actually have impact immediately if we were to get it signed into law. And it's good all the way through Election Day because 22 states have registration right up through Election Day. So the people saying that it wouldn't have any impact if we pass it are just straight up lying and incorrect. So we do need to pass it. We do need to force the question. And the one way to force the question in the Senate is to attach it to a funding bill.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Chip. Go ahead.
I sat in the Rules Committee where the Democrat ranking member, she said, we Democrats want an omnibus bill in December. She said that. That is the position of Democrats. So any Republican who gets up and they want to claim the moral high ground and say they are against this play to try to push a CR with the SAVE Act, they are for getting a CR in December, which means right before Christmas, because that is what is guaranteed to happen if we don't pick the fight that the speaker is trying to pick right now. Now, look, I got all these guys out there who are saying, including my good friend Thomas Massey, who's acting like he's freaking Nostradamus or something, saying, oh, I've got a prediction for you, that suddenly the speaker and the surrender caucus are going to walk away from the fight. Well, no shit. That's what they do. They walk away from the fight. But we need to pick the fight, expose it, and then try to land the plane by not having a CR in December. So I would dare any one of my colleagues who are against this plan, come forward with a better plan that we will actually be able to move, pass, and unite the Republican Party to go beat Democrats. But that's the actual goal between now and November. And you know what? It's why Donald Trump put out a tweet in favor of it in July. The Freedom Caucus put out an official position for it. And it is why President Trump said on the interview with you that he supported attaching the SAVE Act to the CR. We should fight. Don't predict failure and then be the reason why we fail. And that's what some of my friends are doing, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you know, Chip, President Trump also said to me on my podcast that he was willing to see the government shut down over this, because if you have no election integrity going into this election and beyond, we're lost as a country, and this is it. So what are you hearing? I mean, you are very strong. We appreciate you so much, but there are so many of your colleagues who are not quite as strong, and they do not want a government shutdown this close to the election. What can you tell us about that dynamic?
Well, it's the dynamic we've been wrestling with for a long time. Remember, I was Senator Cruz's chief of staff when we had the infamous Obamacare shutdown in 2013. He was right to do it. We are now living under Obamacare. I'm happy to go into a shutdown personally, but here's the thing. We have a conference, and we've got to hold 216 Republicans together. And we have about 20 to 25 members of the conference who tell the speaker and tell us that they will get destroyed in November if we have a shutdown. Now, I question that, but there are pollsters, friends of ours, I think Scott Rasmussen has tweeted about this, others who say, well, they would get destroyed if we have a shutdown. I disagree. I say have the shutdown, take the argument to the American people. But you know what? I'm 1/435th of 1/2 of 1/3 of this disastrous hellhole in Washington. You've got to come up with 216 people and figure out how to go ride. And so for the people who are saying we can't do a CR plus SAVE, you are unilaterally disarming. You're walking away from the fight, and you're guaranteeing the one thing you say you don't want, which is a continuation of current funding to expire before Christmas to allow for a great big omnibus fight in December. We think we should extend to March, force that fight, and try to have the fight on SAVE Act. I'd love to go into shutdown, but you know what will guarantee that we won't get there is don't pass this bill. This is like listening to my people.
Chip,
Chip,
like we got to hit a hard break. Can I ask you to hold on and just ride with us through this break, because people are pissed. More with Chip Roy on the other side. Welcome back to War Room. I am Monica Crowley, in today for Stephen K. Bannon, and we are rejoined once again by Texas Congressman Chip Roy, sponsor of the SAVE Act. So, Chip, we're talking about this before we're going into the break, and it's clear that when we're talking about the CR, a potential omnibus coming later in the year, and the SAVE Act, we're talking about two direct existential threats to the United States. Government overspending that is careening us toward a brick wall of a major debt crisis, the likes of which we've never seen before, and election integrity, to the point where we're going to have illegal aliens voting by the millions without the SAVE Act, which is really going to destroy the country. So these two existential threats are facing us, and they're all wrapped up in this one issue. A lot of this audience, probably everybody in this audience, including me, has little to no confidence in Speaker Johnson to actually take this banner all the way through, shut down the government if necessary. Is Speaker Johnson going to cave on this issue?
Yeah, well, let's rewind the clock just for 1 second back to February of 2021. And my good friend Russ Vogt, frequently on this show, former OMB director for President Trump, he and I were on a stage where we talked about defunding tyranny. We were one of the earliest people to lay out this whole idea that we should not be funding the very government that's undermining our freedom and our liberty. I stand by that. I have no interest in giving this administration another dollar. Here's the thing. There's zero chance, no matter who the speaker is, that we're going to pick a shutdown fight between now and Election Day. That's just my general belief of the matter. I don't believe we have the votes for it. So the question becomes, what do we want to go try to fight for and get? My view is we want to avoid a lame duck omnibus. So now let's go to the speaker question. I had violent disagreement with Speaker Johnson last spring, as is well documented. I fought him on the Ukraine funding that was tied to Israel, and I voted against it. I took lots of arrows from the Jewish community, Christians United for Israel. Other folks said, you didn't vote for Israel funding. Well, we all talked about this last year when we said, you know what? If you're going to do Ukraine funding, tie H.R. 2 to it, demand border security. Because my belief was that would anchor it down. Well, unfortunately, the speaker put it in a great big omnibus spending bill in the spring, and he passed it. I think that was a terrible mistake, and I think he walked away from securing the border. So I was one of 11 Republicans who voted not to table the motion to vacate the chair. But guess what? We lost. He's the speaker. The speaker has been in contact with the Trump team, and President Trump tweeted out his desire that we pick these fights. So here we are. I think here's the one thing I know. You can't win a fight you don't pick. And if my friends say, well, we're going to walk away from the fight, you're guaranteeing that we will get a CR into December. I want to avoid that. I don't know whether they'll fold on the SAVE Act. They probably will. But you know what? You don't know until you get there. But then force the question and then try to use it as leverage to get 6 months. Because you know what? John Tester and the Democrats are scared of this vote. Tester's already walking away from this issue. Sherrod Brown in Ohio. We need to give President Trump the biggest Senate and the biggest Congress we can. And then we need to go win primaries. And we need to pick speakers and leadership that will carry out the actual will of where we want to go as patriots. But we can't win a fight that we don't pick. If we walk away right now, I promise you what we'll get is a CR into December, right before Christmas, which is exactly what the Democrats and Republican appropriators want. The people opposed to our current play are siding with the Democrats and the appropriators to get a December omnibus.
Yeah, you know, it all gets down to, on the spending side, Chip, the fact that government has no profit motive. If you're running a publicly, traded business or a private business, a small business, your bottom line is your bottom line, right? You have to meet payroll. You're trying to turn a profit. You've got a profit motive to function. Government's motive is only power. And with power, the thing that fuels power is money. So there's no incentive to actually cut spending, but we're about to hit the wall. And the American people, certainly this audience, we are pissed. We're so tired of seeing Congress running around with their hair on fire the night before Christmas. It's Christmas Eve and they're voting on a CR or an omnibus, and then we get trillions more and funding all of this BS, including the lawfare against President Trump. So Speaker Johnson, who has said, oh, I'm all for election integrity. Well, where has he been the last year and a half that he has been speaker? Or, oh, we're totally opposed to the weaponization of DOJ. And yet, time and again, he's shepherding bills through at the last minute, hair on fire, funding all of this stuff.
Well, and these are the right questions to ask. And what I would suggest is we've got to set up a framework by which we can actually go cut the spending. So I've got friends of mine saying, well, we shouldn't do this because it continues spending at the current levels. I agree. I would dramatically cut spending. I don't have the votes to do that right now. So what I'm trying to do is figure out how do we get to a world in which Donald Trump is in the White House And we have leverage in the House and the Senate to deliver next spring. Now, to be very clear, it will be really hard to deliver even then. But I like our chances when we've got President Trump there, we've got Steve Bannon back in the chair, we've got the posse organized to put pressure on the Surrender Caucus who want this. But here's the bottom line. Until we break the back of the defense industrial complex and the people who are driving the train in this town for spending, we will never get off this merry-go-round. Too many Republicans are beholden to what a handful of corporate interests in this town say needs to be our defense spending. It's the same thing with healthcare. It's the same thing with hospitals, pharmaceuticals, all of the people that are killing us from being able to have access to our own healthcare and, frankly, to have innovative defense strategies to defend our country against what you saw Mossad do yesterday. God bless them, going after Hezbollah and all the terrorists. But you know what? We need to be able to defend against that as Americans. This defense world's never going to do that, and we keep writing them blank checks in the false name of defense. We need to fight that. But to do that strategically, we need Trump in the White House, and we need to have the House majority and the Senate majority. So let's pass this bill, jam it down the Democrats' throat in the Senate, and then let's figure out what we're going to do in October. And if the Speaker won't shut it down, we'll have that debate then. But if you don't pick the fight, you'll never frigging know. And that's the problem.
Exactly.
You got people who are self-fulfilling prophecies by opposing it right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Chip, we have less than a minute, so like in 30 seconds, you mentioned the Senate, jam it down the Democrats' throat there. But our Republican leadership on the Senate side, Mitch McConnell, he had a Senate lunch yesterday, not one word about this. He was talking about raising taxes when the head of the party, President Trump, is running on cutting taxes. Just very quickly, a word on McConnell.
Yeah, well, thankfully, we're going to have new leadership in the Senate, but you know, we've got to make sure we have leadership in the Senate that will actually want to lead in a direction where the American people are. This is not 2000. It's not 2005. We have a new Republican Party that we're building who believes in protecting American families, not having big corporate interests roll over our ability to live our lives, you know, cut taxes, more money in our pockets. But we also need to limit government spending and take our country back and secure our border. We need a Senate leader that will do it.
We're done.